Okay, so is there a Zoom link valid?
I didn't see one. I was trying to find like my panelist email, but I'm just gonna sign up. Couldn't find it.
I don't think I got one either.
Oh, wow, it's like I signed up, or I've been invited as a panel. Okay, now maybe it went. It recognized my email as a panelist, so now I have to go to my email to find it.
Set up to send it.
I don't see it.
Says you're all sent.
Hi.
I'm so sorry we're late. I
That's okay.
was at the church, so I went back there. I'm so
Oh
sorry.
no, oh.
I know, I'm sorry. I thought we were gonna be early.
I can't even like register for it, 'cause I can't find it. Okay. Hi, everyone. We'll be starting in just a few minutes. This is the Manhattan Community Board 2 Outdoor Dining Working Group. So just give us a few minutes and we'll get started. Okay.
Did it just come in?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Usually I can go to like 5:30 and it's usually there, but I guess it wasn't.
Okay.
Okay.
Just
Audio. Is there a sign-in sheet? Yes, you guys signed it. Okay, great. Perfect, perfect,
Should we bring it up?
perfect.
It's there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I can't share my screen.
Why you have to do your
What? Seriously? That seems like a waste. No,
no, I can share without. I don't know, why am I a co-host? Mark, I'm a co-host and
There we
I
go.
can share it.
I got it.
You can share.
I got it.
I didn't do that, but.
All right.
Okay. Great. So it is 6:38. We're still waiting on Brian Kate from the committee to arrive. Should I just wait for a minute?
Text them.
Sure. Okay, I just texted him. Thank you, everyone, for waiting. We're gonna start in about 5 minutes. Thanks. Hey, everyone, thank you for your patience. We just, in order for us to have quorum, we're waiting on one more committee member to arrive that is intending to be here. So the cost of doing business in August. So please just give us just a few minutes. He's supposedly walking up the hallway right now, so we'll get started in just a few minutes. Hello. This is the Outdoor Dining Working Group. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We're running a little bit behind.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, and there's a sign-in sheet. Thank you.
I sent in, their form, I filled out some things in the forms on one of the applicants tonight. I sent it in around 6 o'clock. I don't know whether you've, noticed it.
I will have to look. Yes, thank you. Hey.
Sorry.
Okay.
Get going.
Okay. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome. This is 6:52, and we're going to start this meeting for the Outdoor Dining Working Group for Manhattan Community Board 2. And my name is Valerie De La Rosa. I'm the chair of this committee. Joining me here in the room, I have Brian Pape, is a CB2 board member, a member of this committee. We have Carter Booth, past chair of Community Board 2, and Donna Raftery, who is the chair of our SLA committee. And as I've introduced myself, so quickly, if I can have, this is the agenda for the evening, if I can have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Brian, can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. And just, even though these have been submitted, the approval of our June minutes, which had one application on there, which we've already submitted. I just have an approval of the June minutes, just for formality.
Move to approve them.
Thanks, Carter, in a second. Great, thanks, Brian. Okay, so here we have on the agenda tonight, we have 2 Sidewalk Cafe applications. One for Ruby's West Village LLC, DBA Little Ruby's Cafe, 225 West 4th Street. We also have Partners Coffee, West Village, WV LLC, DBA Partners Coffee at 44 Charles Street. And then also for Partners Coffee, we have a Roadway application as well. Then we'll go over future meeting dates and new business. So with that, so we have Ruby's West Village LLC. So this is the plan, and thanks to DOT and to the applicant for the updated site plan that was updated to the application. So that what you see here is from July 16, 2024. Initially, we received this application with a May 2024 plan that was out of date from what had been submitted to CB2 SLA. We know that this is, the 2 streets are different corridors. We have a regional corridor on 7th Avenue, and we have a neighborhood corridor on West 4th Street. So you can see that the Sidewalk Cafe application here, I don't know if everyone can see my arrows, is here, as well as over here on 7th Avenue.
There are also 2 seats within the property line.
Which are
On the
down
right.
on the right
All the
side.
way.
Oh, over here, over here. Yes, thank you for that. So these are not, the 2 seats, though, if they're within the property line, are not part of this application, is that correct? Right, okay. So, like, I can annotate this, but I don't think we need to do that right now. So these are
And the enclosed portion, DOT does not have an application process yet for those.
for those 2 seats?
No, for the enclosed restaurant.
Oh, for this?
Correct. That's a pre-existing enclosed sidewalk cafe, and there's not a process for them yet from DOT.
Oh, there's going to be a process for that. Okay, got it.
It's roughly a little over 100 pre-existing enclosed sidewalk cafes, many of which are in CB2.
Did not realize there was going to be a separate process. So we've got on here, there's the obstructions that are listed, and I need to actually zoom in more here. I'm not sure if I can do that on this one, so I'm going to pull it up on my own. So we have the obstructions on this plan. We have the signpost, traffic street light there on the corner, the ventilation grate. And from, I guess that must be like the circle one that's right here. Anyways, so let's go back to this. The street light.
Does everybody on the committee agree that this plan seems to conform
Yes.
with all the regulations? Everybody's had an opportunity to review it.
Yes.
Yes.
Say that for-
I do have a slide in here of something, and then the pictures that were submitted with the application were from the prior, when there was a railing still installed, so those are now, that's since been removed and is not in the, and again, the site plan was updated, so just making sure everyone on the committee knows that. I'm also gonna share, they're not include that. Hold on. So, Stella had sent in something, so I'm just gonna share it with the committee. She's not here, she's also one of the committee members, so I'm just gonna share it with the committee, and let me share my screen. This is also in the Google Drive. So she had done some measurements. Oh, my screen's not being shared. So she had shared some measurements that here from the bike rack to was required 10 feet here on 7th Avenue, but she had measured 8 feet and 10 inches. And then here on West 4th, the required 8 for the clear path is actually 5 feet 9 inches. So again, I know the planters are not installed here, or they're not in this photo that she took. So anyways, I'm just pointing that out. And the way the picture's taken, I think that that's coming, the bike rack's coming at a diagonal. And so we had gotten some guidance from DOT on the clear path, which I think applies to this. We'd gotten this, that if it's not directly in front of, it's here, we'll see this on another application, the next application, that since it's not directly in front of, the bike rack was directly in front of there on that ventilation grate here, then it would have to have the required 10 feet, but since it's not directly in front of, I think that's where that exception must have been made, so.
So can you go back to what Stella had?
Yeah. That's my interpretation of that,
But so on the left,
but on this
that
one,
measurement is to the
To where
other
the-
color, or is
Yeah.
that to?
Seems to be.
Yeah, she's saying that the measurements are taken from the like wooden perimeter, which used to be where the railing was. It's been removed, so everything, because
So
that,
2 feet needs to be remained from,
right.
I think these folks are.
Yeah. So,
You want to ask?
So
yeah. Hi, hi. Can you please introduce yourselves and your name? If you could come up to the front here so we can hear you on Zoom in the microphone. Thank you for appearing.
For continuing to try to help us with
Sure.
this. So I'm Stacy Callahan. I'm the Director of Operations for all of the properties. I'm new to the company for about a year. I was hired to make sure that the community board and all of our other communities are happy with our restaurants, and we do our best to comply with anything that you're asking of us. Alexi is the general manager for this particular location, and he also manages some of our other properties as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. So this was the only, so it's, I guess it's just, so I think as you heard our discussion of it on the bike rack, since it's not directly in front of, that was some guidance we'd gotten on the clear path from DOT. So, but on West 4th Street there, can you talk to us a little bit about
Yeah, I
that?
mean, listen, the planters we're gonna get are gonna be much smaller than the ones that we had to create the dividers, but let's just say you're like, I'm sorry, the community feels like they're obtrusive, or they're not aligning with the measurements that we agreed upon, which we're obviously working with a company that we've hired to be compliant with everything that we were told to do. We'll always adjust and we'll move them. Like, if you're not happy with what's in the apex, we'll move it. Like, we don't want to upset anybody. I'm happy to keep it on 7th Avenue. If you're like, look, we tried it, you have it, we feel like it's not working, we'll go back to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, 7th Avenue is obviously most important. I feel like that's not in anybody's way whatsoever. The sidewalk is obviously much larger. If in the apex you find that the planters should be thinner, or you don't want the planters, we'll adjust it or we'll move it. As of right now, we got all the measurements, and we're told by our company that they're able to be compliant with their tables. We're not putting chairs, we're only gonna do the bench and the planter, so it's not gonna it's not gonna go into the sidewalk where you don't want us.
So yeah, I think that the concern is to just keep the 8 feet and 10 feet,
Yeah,
right?
right,
That's
yeah.
not a.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
if
that's
it's
it.
not, we'll move
So-
it.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a solid, it's not gonna be open like this, it's gonna be solid like it is on your enclosed that whole.
Yes.
So that, and people will have to, they'll be serving from inside there.
Absolutely.
If you end up, when you get all those measurements down, that you can't have quite the number of seats you have in here because.
Take them away.
Then you'll.
And you just let us know. We don't want to upset anyone. We just want to have a cafe. And if you're unhappy with it, then we'll adjust it, or we'll take tables away. We really just, we want to just get some tables out there in the neighborhood. Hopefully we'll be happy with them.
Yeah, the primary issue from the beginning is predominantly
The fence,
West 4th.
Yeah,
and
and
keeping
West
the
4th.
right?
Yeah, I think it's just
Understood.
8 feet, yeah,
Understood.
yeah.
And then,
And if you can make it work with 8 feet there, great, and if you can't, then maybe this,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
it doesn't,
right.
and you guys say it, and we look at it, and you say it's really not, it doesn't, I will adjust.
Okay,
okay, so I think we covered this, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to hear any comments from the public? If people, if you want to review what.
yeah, and I'm glad, thanks, I'm glad that we have the most up-to-date site planning here, so we're not working from us back and forth on the outdated one, so I'm really glad that we got that in there. So, okay, I'm gonna ask for members of the public to speak for 2 minutes. You are welcome to respond.
Do you want to review the submissions we did receive?
Okay, we can
So
review
we don't
this.
have to,
Sure,
just to bring up those issues.
okay, sure. But you by no means have to respond, so just, and, so, okay. Let me pull up. So. Okay,
You don't
so,
have to put it up, just do it.
well, I'm just trying to bring it up so I can say it, it's just not coming out. Okay, so I'm just gonna go from what's at the top. Okay, so just to be clear, the apex is this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the apex, and then, and the planters or whatever, they're removable. That was a
Yes.
question. Easily removable. And then, the service will be happening from behind.
Yes,
Okay. So it's happening within the space. Let's see. And the private property we already determined was this over here.
that's a lower level.
Yes.
Down the stairs.
Yep,
right?
yep.
Which is not gonna be servicing, like for guests. It's not for, like our staff sits out there to eat their lunch or use their laptop.
Oh, so
It's
this is like okay.
right, so like they eat their lunch out there. We don't serve, yeah.
Okay, so that, which is not part of this application, but is indicated on here since this private property is mostly used for staff. And it's the lower level with the stairs there. So, okay, that's clear. Let's see. And we've already gone over what is within SLA of what's the public space and the railings been removed. And thank you guys for being a really great partner on that. So that's done and done with.
The outside seating's ending at 10.
Yes,
So the other two,
windows closed, 10 o'clock, yes.
the other two issues that were brought up.
Right, we got to hours.
10
is
o'clock.
compliance with other rules. So for example, there's an outstanding violation for landmarks on the sign.
And the little ruby sign, yes.
Or the installation of wood structures without a permit. These were some neighbors that submitted this.
Yeah,
Which we saw, right? And I was like, I was wondering if that was coming up here, but then I was like, maybe that's coming up with the landmark. I mean, I don't know if we're
Well,
addressing.
you have to resolve them. I mean,
They are,
Right,
I was
so
like,
so it's just about resolving it, like,
Yeah.
it's not part, like, we'll make a note of it, but it's not weighing in on it's something that's outstanding that we just want cleared up, that's all.
yeah, you're gonna follow up with that, okay.
And where is that located? That wooden structure?
Plus fourth in the rear.
In the
I think
lodge
I
or?
forwarded, I may not have forwarded that email.
so
Yeah.
generally, and
That's how it
not
used to
seen
look.
the actual language on the violations, but generally, you either have to discontinue the violation or you have to correct it to a permitted situation. So for example, for the signage, you either need to apply for that through landmarks or to. remove
So
it.
that is where
So
on
there's-
here, is that over here?
No, so let me show you. And so obviously the fence is, we can't just put up what we want. We have to go within what they like approve.
That came with it. So
Yeah,
we
oh, you
can-
saw it already,
Yeah, we
okay,
can make it
Here.
look prettier.
yeah.
Okay, it's right.
But it's not for the landmarks violations, it's not necessarily about being prettier. It has to be submitted and approved by the Landmarks Preservation Commission. That can be done one of two ways. It can be done via the staff level in approving it, or at some point, it may rise to a higher level where it's referred to the community board for comments. And then it would go to the Landmarks Preservation Commission itself to be approved. So either way, it still needs to be rectified. The member of the public who raised this did point out that according to the DOT rules, a licensee must be in compliance with rules from other city agencies. And those are two open violations. So.
Okay, so he's gonna make sure that tomorrow he handles that. Like, I know we saw it,
I mean,
like I said, I thought it was a matter of just replacing it, like they're replacing the fence, and I realized you can't just replace it with what you want, you have to
you
apply.
have to probably retain an architect, file a landmarks application to resolve that. That it's not just that it's done in 2 seconds, it's a little more involved.
Well, I'm not speaking from any in-depth knowledge about your garbage situation. But the new rules for rollout garbage containers and all of that stuff, that's new for everybody. And I don't know, maybe if you had a way of just having these rollout containers, there wouldn't be any enclosure.
This
you wouldn't
is
have- Right now,
they
it's
built the structure.
in a depressed
So the-
area, right?
But it's the built structure
Right,
containing it that's the
So, right,
violation, it's not
so
the
you-
trash itself.
right. I'm wondering if you did away with that structure containing garbage altogether and just have the compliance with the sanitation department. It's just one of those things. But if you are going to continue to have a structure, then it needs to go through that approval process.
Like, this is all new to me. I always worked in Midtown.
Oh, I know.
This is very new to me. I was like, oh, we'll just build a nice new one. And they were like, no, you can't just hire somebody to build it. Like he said, you have to actually. So I was like, oh, this is, I'm like, I need you to handle
And
it.
it may be, and I don't know the specifics, this, even though there's steps down next to you, this may actually be on city property, not within the property line, because in some cases, and I don't know, the stairs are actually an easement from the city. That's not actually.
Right, like that was allocated to us through our landlord, Lori. So we didn't actually put that fence there either.
Right.
She just said, oh, hey, this is where you can put your stuff. And we did. And then obviously we got the violation. We're like, no problem. We'll take care of becoming compliant. We
said
don't
no.
even mind picking it up. We just need to know what we're allowed to put there and what we're not. So that's why there's been even a little bit of like a halt there too, because we're just not sure. And we have to approve it with her before we hire somebody, and it's a process, but we have to handle it, obviously.
Is there anything else?
I'm just looking through the form responses that go to the 3 areas that we're looking at. So just trying to see if there's anything that. So. let's see.
All I remember seeing one of the comments was about the planters, and the question was asked, would they be movable? And, so we know that. So
Yeah.
we don't have to dwell on it.
Right after we took the fence down, we also threw away the ones that we had. We took away those as well.
Okay, so
Nothing
and
there on
just
sidewalk.
from just looking at where you have the garbage stored is within your property line. So you can build there, but you just have to get approval for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Built.
It's good to know.
All right. Any other?
Those are all the concerns, right?
Yeah, I'm looking through the form to see anything else, but I think we've covered most of them.
And I have a couple.
Yeah, okay, so let's see what, 3 different little platforms here. Okay, so let's go to, okay. All right, all my like Zoom options get all weird. Oh, here we go. Okay, so now we'll call on for, Little Ruby's Cafe, 225 West 4th Street. If anyone's here from the public to speak on this application, please raise your hand and we will promote you to be on camera, or you can just voice your concern. So Leslie Clark. And 2 minutes, I'm just gonna do it on my phone and just wait for her to be promoted. Let me just put my timer on.
Leslie, if you want to.
Yeah, I think you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Leslie Clark. I won't need 2 minutes. You guys have gone over just about everything that I raised in my comments. I just wanted to, this question. Is it a question of putting a nice new fence around those stoops on the West 4th Street side where the garbage is contained now? Or does Landmarks actually allow you to put up a fence like that at all? A wooden fence which was thrown up. I
We didn't
remember.
put it up.
vividly.
No. I'm not sure. I'm so sorry. We didn't actually put that fence up. It was there when we took over the space and renovated it. So that was the only part of the building we actually haven't renovated. We're happy to replace it and make it compliant with whatever, the community wants. It's just, we haven't been given direction yet from anybody to do
Okay,
so.
I'm just asking the committee this question, which is,
Sorry.
I remember very vividly when they came up at the beginning of the pandemic when Riviera was closed. My question simply is, do they allow those kind of fencing at all on a landmark building? That's my first question. I mean, I'm not sure you can replace it with a nicer fence. I don't think you're actually allowed to put up that kind of wooden fencing. That was my question for the committee, and I don't know if the community board is going to be able to actually answer that question. But the other thing is that there's a lot of activity in and out of those fenced areas, and the people come out from the restaurant and sit on the stoops, which I can see, which means that they are a presence there at all times. You see them coming out, sitting on the stoops, taking their breaks, sitting on the stoops, around where that garbage is. And the other thing is, I was surprised to see that the area under the FedEx steps is considered to be not for customers, but only for staff? Really, only for staff? They're not going to be serving patrons under the stairs on the FedEx? So that was my question. Those are my only questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think as far as the fence, I think that's an LPC question. And again, at some point in the review process, DOT may elect to send this over to LPC. It's not clear how that, how that's going to work. Yeah.
Well, I'm on the Historic
Yep.
Preservation Committee as well, and if LPC doesn't handle it by staff, they'll send it to the community boards and we'll review it. And then we can opine on whether we think it's aesthetically fitting within the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But it may not arise to that point. So we can't tell you.
Yeah.
I could not answer Leslie whether this or that fence or this or that enclosure is allowed to be built in a historic district by LPC.
But LPC will have to approve it when it goes there.
LPC will have to.
That's what we were told by Lori, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I
So.
don't think it's aesthetically pleasing either, but it's not for me to decide what's
And
going
it's
to
not
go
for
there.
this committee to decide either. Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a note from Nicole Barth from Councilmember Eric Botcher's office. So I'm just going to read it. It says here, and only part of it's on screen, it says, per LPC about the fence, the enforcement department is working on this matter. My understanding is that some of the fence was removed, but not all of it. The owner will be contacted about removing the fence. Please note that LPC does not have jurisdiction over the restaurant or the building owner storing material in the areaway. Because it's private property, is that?
Well, like I said, I mean, the trash can place, I mean, the
Yeah.
trash is there. That's
Right.
not, I think that whoever had built that enclosure was trying to make it aesthetically more pleasing to the public, but in doing so, there was a violation of the landmarks regulation.
Right.
The area, the building is in a landmark district, so.
And as much as it probably existed before, when things change hands, as you've seen, things come up that maybe were not issues before. And so thanks.
But just to be clear, you're working on that. You're
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
so.
I'm aware of that and the signage, yes.
Okay, great. Are there anybody else from the public who wants to speak on this matter? Please raise your hand, or in the room, did you want to speak on this one? Okay. So with that, we will hold that for our business session. So thank you.
Thank you. I just have a question.
Of
if it's okay if I ask.
course.
So obviously we don't have any seating out there. We obviously want to wait for your approval. Are you approving it? Like, is it okay that we're doing it? I'm just trying to understand, because like I said, this is a new process for me.
Sure.
I thought after the last meeting, when I came with my lawyer, that we agreed upon the time at 10 o'clock and the windows would be
Right.
closed and that we were approved. And then it was like, oh, there's another meeting. You go online. I'm like, no, I want to go in person because I'm not understanding. I thought we were approved.
Yeah.
Well, this is an application that you made to DOT. It's obviously, you submitted it a long time ago, most likely, right? A
Yeah.
number of months ago.
Yeah.
It was finally just referred to us. This is one portion of this, but I don't believe you can start using the area until DOT issues you the actual license.
Right. I think they
Use-
did. That's why. And that's why we were like, we were waiting. No, because I was.
No, it's not.
No.
No.
In our understanding of this timeline, but you're one of the first few, to my understanding, none have been approved by the city yet, even though they opened this process in March. that it's still another 60 days, I think. There's some time, it's a period of time until you receive the permit to use the outside. And then also there's the alteration application, which is submitted to the liquor authority.
Right, the SLA, that I know we can't serve liquor.
But they can't even hear it
Until
this is done.
Understood.
So, and that.
Which is
was
frustrating,
just-
because we're
So
the
the
time
liquor-
for the nice weather, I get it.
Yeah,
So the liquor authority had just
Yeah.
passed an advisory last week, which you can review on their website. And then you can work with Mr. Bernstein, who can explain all that. And I believe he's your liquor licensing attorney.
okay,
And because the determination on the outside was made by the members of the authority at a full board, my understanding is that it can't be handled by the licensing area at the liquor authority. It has to be recalendared so that the commissioners can approve the change.
understood.
That may not be the case, that may have changed, there may be some leeway, but that's my understanding now. But the committee is going to have a business session at the end of this, you're welcome to stay, where we discuss each of these and what we're gonna do, and that, I think, is what you were looking for, that's when the vote will happen. And,
I
but
can tell you the three, so this is a sidewalk cafe, so there are three options for our decision, which is approval, approve with modifications, or recommending a denial. So those are the three, and then if there's a recommended modifications, we'll list those out. And then there's a place on the form, the form has changed a little bit of the months since it's happened, so they would then take our form that we submit to DOT and present it to you, and it would say that you acknowledge and agree to the modifications and the above referenced application, or you acknowledge them but you don't agree to them. And I think that determines whether or not this application will get called up to a DOT public hearing. So I think my understanding of it is if it's denied, it does go to that DOT public hearing, which adds more time. If it's an approval with modifications, but they're agreed to, I don't think it goes to, yeah, it doesn't go to a DOT, so that lessens the time again. So if we can all agree.
There are no
This is a
modifications.
part of why we asked DOT, and you were probably involved, to have the right diagram,
Yeah,
so that you
Yeah, like we had to
proceed
resubmit.
without any speed bumps and get it faster. And because that had already been agreed to, that's why there was that last minute
back and forth
exchange
with your attorney, yeah.
before we asked it. But I don't see any problems, but we haven't voted yet, so.
And it was good that you were at the SLA, that we knew that we had a different diagram, because had that
Yeah, so it was.
that not happened, we would
Yeah,
have known that the first diagram we got was the incorrect diagram until we compared it to what was, the updated one at SLA, and then we're like, these two are not matching, and we were just trying to
And,
I mean,
and if the committee does
not
vote
get you
to,
jammed up.
right,
with
if the
that.
committee
Fair,
does
yeah.
vote to approve this, I don't think it requires a public hearing.
Yeah.
A second public hearing by DOT, so that will save you
time.
and also resources, because I think they charge a
To
fee for
publicize
that
it,
as well.
yeah. So it sounds like we're in agreement to modify.
But let's wait and.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we also have to do our business session.
Yeah, of course.
Just while you're here, it sounds like, just so I can summarize this conversation, that you both are going to work on the LPC violations to get those
Yes.
cleared up. You acknowledge that and acknowledge that's part of the DOT dining out NYC rules, that you're in compliance with that. It also sounds like you've acknowledged that if the 8-foot clearance is not met on West Fourth, that you will remove seating from there.
I have one question
Yeah.
also about that. Like, is there somebody on the community board like, if that does happen, like that you say, you call me or email me and say, hey, I know we spoke at the meeting. I'm gonna need you to make this adjustment, where it's a more, like, where the relationship is like, I'm not trying to upset anyone. I want to be compliant, but like where you notify me by call, or you come into the restaurant and I can make an adjustment and not upset anyone or get a violation, like, does the relationship work like that at any point?
I think that it can, I mean,
I think it can.
yeah, but
Like,
let's.
like I said, I just want to make it,
We also,
I want to make it easy, and I don't want to upset
there's
anyone.
a number of entry points for complaints, right? One is through 311 to the city, another is raised to us. These are different ways. I mean, I think that the board can be involved in helping resolve this because everybody wants a compliant situation.
Yeah.
But I think if you follow the measurements, that's
it.
I mean, it's not
It-
overly
it
complicated.
Really is that.
You follow the diagram and that's it.
Yeah.
And if within your lines of where you're allowed to have sidewalk cafe, if you need to have less tables to make it work, then that's what it is. And, you know,
And then I would
you're
say,
gonna see it when you, I don't know if you mocked it out on the street, but you're gonna see if, you know, you can fit the tables and chairs or if it's too tight, or you're gonna probably have to pull out a couple chairs and tables if it is, if not, it's.
and then I would say like, so that if you if you agree to that determination, an updated site plan that shows that so that everything is on the record and there's the most up to date on the record.
Yeah,
Right.
this is it, right? So we're good. Yeah, this is the most,
Right.
yeah.
Well, you'll know before anybody else, because you'll.
Yeah, either
Have this
that'll work.
set up.
Either
The tables and chairs, yeah, it's the area.
Yeah, so whether you stay or not, you can log in, you can listen to our business session and you'll
Yeah.
know the final outcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should move this along.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. Sorry about that. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great. Okay. All right, next application.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, so the next one we have is Partners Coffee, WV LLC, DBA Partners Coffee, 44 Charles Street, Sidewalk Cafe. So we have, on this one, we have two applications. So we have the Sidewalk Cafe. There's two site plans for it and two forms. So here I've got 7th Avenue side, which is a regional corridor with a 10-foot required clear path. And then we have the Sidewalk Cafe on the Charles Street side, which is a neighborhood corridor with an 8-foot clear path. So we're only talking about the sidewalk here. The next application for this same applicant is for the Roadway Cafe portion. And there will be a site plan there that has, on Charles Street, that has the Roadway Cafe and the adjacent sidewalk for cafe for context. So, I don't know if I forwarded the email. So there were questions about the tree bed, and I don't believe we have the applicant here. We did notify.
Are they online?
Is anyone, if anyone is here from Partners Coffee, that is the applicant, if you can raise your hand so we just know if that you're here. If not, we will continue our discussion. I'll ask again after our comments. I don't see anyone raising their hand for it. So it's a 10-foot corridor, which is met all throughout here on the corner from the fire hydrant. We have 12 feet. So zoom in on mine to see it. Hold on,
And just, you know,
we're on the sidewalk cafe.
on the diagram does not have a compass point, so it's difficult. But just for clarity, this is on
It's
the
correct.
northeast corner of 7th Avenue and Charles Street.
Thank you.
That's correct?
That
correct?
is
South,
northwest, west.
it's on the southwest.
Southwest. corner.
Southwest.
Okay, sorry, it's on the
Thank you.
southwest corner.
Thank you for that. So we've got 26 feet to the light post, 12 feet to the fire hydrant, 10 feet to the bike rack, sidewalk width of 12 feet, and then from the tree bed, 8 feet a diagonal. So I was, so it's a 10-foot required clear path, and so I emailed in and asked our plan reviewer about, doesn't the clear path need to be maintained throughout the entire thing? And so the way that it was then, and looking at what was in the DOT NYC DOT pedestrian mobility plan and what was considered the walk lane and the furnishing zone and all of that, and the clear path is defined there. It seemed as though it was meant that the clear path was meant to be maintained throughout. However, in the rules, it was cited that the clear path has to be maintained in front of the cafe, and that since this tree bed is not in front of the cafe, so that is the way this is being interpreted. So I did a back and forth about 2 times on that and got cited that. Now, when you look at their photographs, I know I'm seeing Brian is having a reaction to that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
So let me go on here. So the thing is though, what's interesting, so their side, that is correct, their Sidewalk Cafe is ending here. But this, I don't know why there is no seating here, so this, needs to move over here in my opinion for this to be a true statement of what's on their plan. And again, it was like this today. This was submitted by the applicant 4 months ago when this application was sent to DOT on March 19th, and we are just now hearing it on August 14th, so just let that be in the record. So I would say that planter here on the left would need to move in. They don't have any seating there. I've walked by this place a couple times, but today they were not open. They had a pipe, there was a pipe that burst upstairs, so there was no seating out, but the barriers were out, but I didn't have them in true form because of the, they were closed, so.
They still have a planter
That one that's, right, so it
about
was,
where that is now, so.
yeah, so I think that just needs to move.
I mean, they need to do what they're drawing is.
Yeah, so again, there's that.
Yeah.
So,
You can see it
this brings
here.
up an issue that, for this site plan,
Mhm.
the pictures, that the site plan, everything works as it's depicted in the site plan. If you
Right.
want to put the site plan up.
Sure,
But what you have is if they move that closer to the doorway, which it seems that there's plenty of, there's a couple of feet there, that if they extend the Sidewalk Cafe to the doorway, then that is what creates the problem. So in order to be compliant, this has to be set up in this fashion, even though they could have a larger Sidewalk Cafe. They're not required to keep any distance from that service delivery
right,
entrance.
it's not a main entrance,
So-
primary.
So that's something that they, that this plan is accurate, but only if it's set up this way. And that's why if you go back to the picture, which you showed, actually the one before it, see, no, go back down. There's another picture, that one. If you see where that doorway is.
Yep.
That's where the issue is. So the outside planter would have to be moved. And those planters, they can't be sticking out. They have a fairly large planters. So it actually takes up space within the Sidewalk Cafe. If they don't mark the outer perimeter, it's like in the site plan, it's on the outside, but the way it's set up, it doesn't seem. It seems that they need to
Well, then the
have it.
thing is then that tree bed becomes the issue, because now it's directly in front of it.
Right, and
So they just need to move it.
but I'm just saying, it doesn't look like there's even 8 feet in
No,
that other planter. In that,
oh, I did measure, I did measure that to that corner one, not the far one, but the one as indicated in their site plan, because the site plan is what we're supposed to be judging this on. And I think the photos are supposed to show us like what is really there, right? So when I took the measurement, I had it at 7 feet, 3 inches.
so that's.
And again, this is just, sorry, just for those in the room, like that's what it was today, but again, they were closed today, so again, I didn't take that with.
Right, take it with a grain.
Yeah, I take it with a grain of salt, because they weren't open, so I
But
don't.
what I'm just pointing out that they need to amend what their setup is. It
To
doesn't
conform.
look like the pictures that are submitted, so it just needs to be in compliance. I mean, it's not a reason not to approve it.
Right.
But it's just something that
The setup
we-
they have
I think
now-
that we, and this is the difficult part when they're not here,
Right,
that they need to be in compliance and,
And the setup they have now is not in compliance.
well, the site plan's compliant, it's just in practice, it needs to show, and it would be helpful the same way Oscar's Place had it as it was shown in the site plan and that was just a very quick and easy, thing, so, okay. So anything, so that's 7th Avenue sidewalk, right?
yeah. And then Charles Street, I had a couple questions. They're not here to answer it, but, the two benches that are there, it appears that those are tables in front.
Right,
And it looks like one is what is often marked as two seats, which are those two small dashes on the one to the right.
yeah,
But it doesn't appear that there's enough room for that.
Or are they planters?
I think that those rectangles are planters if I'm,
Okay, that may be. I mean, does that match what the?
but the thing is, it doesn't say barrier the way it did on the other one.
I put something in the drive from a Google map that had the seating
Okay.
up there.
Oh, okay, that's helpful, because I was gonna say it
Yeah,
wasn't,
that was helpful because it had something there. When I went by and took my pictures a week or so ago.
okay. So let me get out of this and let me add that to this quickly. Hello, hi. So let me just pull that up. And then let me add it to the deck really quickly, because then we can just, everyone can see it.
That didn't have any barriers on it. It had a bench, a table, and 2 chairs and no barriers.
And there was nothing out today because they were closed.
Right,
And even when I went by a couple weeks ago, last week, I think it was, they didn't have anything out on that side. Any tables, chairs, planters, nothing. I mean, they had 2 little pots, they have little pots, but not the bigger planters, which I think my photos are in there from that too.
Yes.
so let me just grab what Donna shared and let me grab.
After doing that, I'll just,
Yeah, go ahead, great.
I appreciate how your efforts to define this standard for measuring at an angle, whether it's actually perpendicularly in front or diagonally in front. To me, that's not the way I've been trained to measure. However, the fact that the tree pit is at the surface of the sidewalk, and in fact, when you can walk on the tree pit, which gives you a little more room. And back when we were doing sidewalk cafe improvements,
Mhm.
that was in fact, you measured to the tree in that case.
That's right.
No longer.
Well, maybe not, I'm just,
Yeah.
That was one of my
Now we're in a
pet peeves,
new
so no longer. That you do measure from the tree bed.
but on the other end, with this new rule,
That's
and there is a barrier around the edge of the sidewalk for the tree pit, that does not make any sense because you no longer have the clear pathway.
we're not maintaining the clear path.
Maintaining a clear pathway of that dimension.
Right.
They're kind of
Here's the map.
conflict.
Yeah, I think it said. on that.
The photographs that are submitted don't seem to show.
They don't show the Charles side.
both sides.
So
Oh, okay, I see now. Okay, I see.
my photos show the
Yep.
trail size, and then I have the Google map.
They're in the correct, yeah. Okay, let me just add those really quickly to the deck so that way everyone can see them and I'm not having to go to the, I meant to do that before. Okay, so. Thank you for putting this in. Oh, that's great, Donna. Perfect. And then did you do the 44 Charles Street photos or no?
Yeah, whatever those 44 truck.
Okay, okay.
In there, those are just the photos I took last.
Perfect.
Or I wasn't measuring or anything, but I,
That's fine. Street photo. And then and there's several photos, right, in this.
three, I think, in there.
Give me 1 second, y'all, and I'll put these in. Sorry to do that ahead of time. Extract. Sort image. One more. Is this Klein in a photo or no? You're gonna see it and be like, how did you think that was Klein? Okay, last one.
To say that.
Okay, last one. All right, so thank you so much.
That was much better.
The really cloudy day. All right, let me go back to that share. So. Play and share. Okay. This is one I took today, so there's obviously nothing there, and I did not go wide out enough. So that was there today. This map was in there, so I just put that in there for reference. Maybe Carter did that, or did
I
you?
did that.
Okay, thank you, Donna. And then this is the Google screenshot that you mentioned. So the 2 benches here. Oh, I see. So.
This is from July 2022, so.
But it's probably, so.
Well, that's what.
Yeah, so that rectangle is the table, the bench, the table, and 2 chairs. And I don't know if the 2 chairs are on the plan, so let me pull it up at another.
And that's where I
Carter might be right
don't
about those
believe
2
that
lines.
that's acceptable, because
With no
generally.
barrier.
Well, that's one part of it. There's not a barrier. There's also typically the seating, the bench is gonna be 18 to 20 inches, most likely. Most chairs are roughly in that size. And so if you do the math, fitting that all within 5 feet, it becomes very difficult to fit everything within the 5-foot space that's depicted on the diagram. So to me, it doesn't seem like even the diagram that's submitted is.
And it needs the barrier. And it-
Yeah, there's no barrier. Yeah, there's no barrier. I mean, there's no barriers on the plan, because on the previous slide, right, they indicated the barriers and it says barrier on there,
So,
right? So these all say
Right.
barrier.
Right.
And then here on this plan, there are no barriers.
there's also no way to have a service aisle within
Yeah.
this with the barrier.
Right.
So this is a non-compliant plan.
Yeah,
Meaning-
it's unfortunate that that's in there.
Well, it would seem that the only manner in which this could be done is to have two tops parallel against the wall.
Right.
Mhm. Oh, that's true.
I don't
Right.
think that this setup, unless it's just a bench, and if it's just a bench, part of this, it's a slightly different style of application, But you could have the bench and the table and sufficient passage, even if it's only a foot and a half to service it through the barrier.
They've got the two tops over here. They've got
It just doesn't
the
seem-
small
this-
tables here.
What we're
Like
presented here
those.
doesn't work. It's unfortunate that the applicant's not here.
Yeah.
Because I think that the only course, and we'll have to discuss this in the business session, but I think that the only course is that this is not an approvable setup. If those are in fact two chairs, shows no barriers,
Right.
this just doesn't show information
Well,
that's
and,
sufficient here
well,
to have an
right,
approvable.
I agree. Well, and if these barriers, are, you know, with a thinner, we're not here to pick out barriers for them, but a slimmer barrier on that sidewalk.
Well, whatever it is,
Whatever.
it's just that
doesn't
this
work.
plan is incomplete, it seems. It's not labeled properly. And then as we'll see, that the reason this becomes important is that that clear path really can't be obstructed because there's also going to be
A roadway.
a roadway on the other side. And that kind of brings a heightened importance to that clear path.
Correct.
So-
And, right, it's not complete and accurate for what is a compliant sidewalk cafe on the Charles Street side.
Do we
So,
want to, we've been talking about this for a while, do we want to have any public comment?
on the sidewalk cafe portion?
Yeah.
Sure. So we are going to take comment on Partners Coffee West Village LLC on the sidewalk cafe portion. So we have that portion. That portion is the 7th Avenue Sidewalk Cafe here and the Charles Street Sidewalk Cafe here. We are not talking about the roadway yet because that's a separate application. We're talking about that one next.
Leslie has her hand
Okay.
up as well as.
So are we both speaking on Partners Coffee? Okay, so
On the
let's,
sidewalk?
on the sidewalk? Okay. So let's get Leslie and we'll go to you two in the room in just 1 second. So Leslie, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Leslie Clark with West Village Residents. I also live around the corner from this. I just have one question. I agree with you that it doesn't appear that there's enough room on the Charles Street side to actually have any kind of seating with a barrier with service from within the barrier, but then you are aware of that and have already covered it. I had a question, where's the residential doorway? I pass this all the time, and I believe the residential doorway is that black door you see in the photographs on the Charles
This
Street.
one. Yep.
And is this within 5 feet of it? I don't see that measurement on their diagram.
You're correct. They don't have that. You're correct.
I don't know the measurement, but it needs to be.
You're correct. They don't have that on there, but, and thank you. They do have it marked here on the site plan, resident, this right here. I don't know if you can see my arrows.
Yes, but how far away is that?
So it's not on the site plan, so I don't know, but I think it's a moot point now, given that what they've outlined for a sidewalk cafe on Charles Street is not in compliance in and of itself. And so I think it renders that point moot because.
Oh, just one more thing to mention.
Yes.
I mean, that's just.
Oh, yeah.
And
And
that's to mention,
additional, yeah.
compliance. I just want to say, I did email DOT about what a main building entrance is to try to get in, some kind of clarity on that. And the answer I got back this afternoon was any main entrance that leads into a building, house, et cetera. Some bigger buildings have emergency exits on the side of the building that can't be blocked, but it's not a primary entrance. So this would need the 5-foot clearance.
I mean, right. And did you have another question, Leslie, from your list of questions?
Yeah, no, I believe that is my question about the primary, because I wasn't sure whether the primary entrance was on 7th Avenue or Charles, although I have seen people going in on Charles. I think that is the primary entrance.
Yes.
Everything else that you have said about the problems with the measurements on Charles Street, I agree with, and I thank you, and those are the ends of my comments.
Great. Thank you. I think also there's a no parking street sign is over here, but maybe that's not on the map, but who wants to go first? Okay, if you could come sit up here. We can move the microphone. Yeah, just so people on Zoom can hear you.
Okay.
So please state your name. You'll have 2 minutes.
My name is Norma Cote. I live in the West Village.
Okay.
You've already picked up on a lot of the things that I had flagged.
Uh-huh.
On the Seventh Avenue side. I would only say that, in agreement with you, all of the planters have to be within the licensed footprint. They cannot be without the licensed footprint.
Correct.
And the size of that footprint has to shrink because the southern end of it has to move up to be
Right.
out of the way of the tree pit. I also think, however, that the barriers demarcating the perimeter have to be continuous. I don't think you can have a planter, a space, a planter, a space, a planter, a space.
Yeah, thank you for that.
On the Charles Street side, I've never been in Partners Cafe, but I looked it up on the web, and it appears to me that this is a coffee shop with sandwiches in it.
Mhm.
And I don't think they have waiter service, but I don't think that makes any difference either. The question came up in the webinar in June,
Mhm.
whether an establishment that has outdoor tables and chairs, but no wait service, still has to get a license. And DOT said, yes, they do. And I assume that means a barrier, and there has to be a barrier.
Correct.
I read the plan as calling for two benches and 2 tables.
Yep.
And the only thing that can pass between them is the legs and the arms of the people who are sitting.
Right,
And
that is correct.
nobody can pass between them. And if those tables are at
Right.
the edge of the 5 foot, it's only 5 feet wide,
Mhm.
then everybody coming and going is going to have to go on the sidewalk.
Yeah, and just to your point, I'm just looking at some old pictures, and it looks like they've had benches
Yes,
there in the past.
but no tables.
Right, and I don't know if they had proper permits for benches, there are bench permits. That's, I'm just noting that may be a long-standing setup they have there, but if they want to have outdoor seating, they may need to change that in order to meet all appropriate
Change the
requirements.
bench,
Change the seating configuration to fit it in there, because
oh, with like the two
what's presented
tops.
doesn't appear to be. And I don't think that there's any objection if they remove that
Yeah.
area from the dining out and just have the 2 benches. I'm not sure that benches are. I mean,
Oh, they
I
just have
guess
the
if they
two, like,
want
if they just have,
a service there, I mean, it's a little bit of a different question, but that's.
well, they can have just 2 benches out there and not be part of sidewalk outdoor dining, is that correct?
I think they have to be part of something.
They have to have a permit, which is a separate permit.
What agency?
DOT.
We could say it could be one or the other. Either it's 2 benches through a separate permit process, or it's two tops.
Then they're an
There's also
interesting
no
situation, because if they don't have wait staff, those 2 benches essentially, just because there's not a table with them, essentially work the same way the sidewalk cafe tables and chairs do on the other side. So they would still, I think, we'd have a perimeter. I mean, to me, the 2 benches would still serve if people are going to be sitting there with their coffee and their sandwich. It would still need to be part of this program with a barrier around it, I would think. But who knows?
Well, if you want me to add something else to the mix, they do not, oh, wait, they have no violations. Sorry. I will withhold my comment.
I mean, I think, I remember this question coming up at one point at something, and I think if somebody's just putting a bench outside and there's not food involved with it, that's a separate permit to have a bench with whomever. I think as soon as the food comes into the mix, but I'm not 100% positive that would be part of, logic would tell me it would be part of this program, but I don't know.
They were a participant in the temporary program.
But, so our statement can be clear that under our rules, that arrangement on Charles Street on the sidewalk does not work.
Right. If that's part of the DOT program, it just is not compliant.
If there's another program, that's not for us.
It's really weird. Their stuff is registered, but their roadway was registered in Brooklyn, but with 10014 in the right address. Anyways,
Okay,
sorry, we started talking and did you get everything you needed to?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Thank you so much.
And I'm staying for the roadway.
Yeah, we'll do that one next. Yeah, we'll do that one next. Yep. Thank you for your patience.
I'm a little camera shy,
Okay.
but I
You can
wanted
just
to
speak into
ask,
this. Please state your name.
it's Carol.
Okay, thanks, Carol.
So from what I read, is this your business that am I?
No, he's on the committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, it seems like there's a 6:30 start time, opening time every day of the week.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean they're going to start to put out tables and chairs and a lot of activity at 5:30 every morning? Neighbors may object. I mean, I don't know how long that outside setup takes, but generally it's an hour before opening. And is that okay with the neighbors? That's a lot of
Yeah.
rustling around of
One of the-
tables and chairs and dragging stuff around. And then a general question is, who goes around to all of these businesses that have requested sidewalk and roadbed sheds to make sure that all of the dimensions submitted are accurate?
So,
Whose responsibility is that overall?
DOT enforces their regulations.
So, but before anything is actually set up, like a roadbed shed, does DOT go there beforehand to make sure that,
We have to conform to the plans.
so they have to.
Within
they have to-
30 days.
Those are the plans.
So the plan is reviewed, the plan submitted is what's reviewed. And then once an application is approved, then they will, every application, roadway or sidewalk that's approved after 30 days, DOT goes to physically visit the site and that's where the compliance starts.
got it? Thank you. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wants to speak on 44 Charles Street on the Sidewalk Cafe? We're gonna go to the Roadway Cafe next. Okay, don't see anyone? Okay, thank you, Mark. All right, so to be continued. So, I guess we can talk about it in business session. Okay, so here we have the Roadway Cafe site plan. As you can see, the same that they've kept the Sidewalk Cafe here. It is not part of this specific application for the Roadway Cafe, but they're showing it because there is a context there. So there is an existing shed there now. They submitted the same photo, so I'm just gonna go back. You can see the shed here. And this is not what they submitted, this is from Google. The submitted photograph, I don't think they actually, like I said, they did not show us the Charles side very much. So this is one I took today, it's a little close in. But you can see from this photo, there is no flooring here. So the question would be if this is at, if that's ADA compliant or not. Because the sidewalk, I don't know if it goes lower there.
Have a ramp.
Huh?
Have a-
Yeah, they have a ramp. So there's that. So there's no flooring there. You can see that from this photo. Thank you, Donna, even more. So, let's go back to that site plan. So I don't think we have the table.
I would say one of the things that I noticed walking by and looking at what they gave us
Yeah.
is similar to the situation we have on 7th Avenue. In terms of what's there right now is not what's illustrated on the diagram.
Interesting.
So I think if, I think the photo show it's coming out further. It's coming out to, I think there's a little paved point by their entryway there. So if you look at the roadbed now, it comes out to basically that black pole. And what they have in their drawing.
Oh, yeah.
Brickwork, which I think, which almost takes it back. The proportion is off, but it almost, when I walked by today, it almost exactly.
Oh, it's like right in half, yeah.
Right in half, yeah.
So it could be that they're intending to break this down and they're going to build something that is compliant to what, or that is what is in their site plan. It's very possible, right? It's again, unfortunate that they're not here, but you're right that as it exists.
So if you look here, you can see the line. In the street is significantly ahead of the building.
Mhm.
So you can see it here as well. You see that line? Go back to the picture you just had. So if you look at that line in the sidewalk on the lighter, further down,
Yeah,
no, the next one up is right. If you follow that parallel, you see it's in front of the building. So this roadbed is not compliant with the new rules as far as being in front of their premises.
Right.
and
But the proposed diagram is compliant.
And just Nicole put,
Yeah.
that you saw. Which I would think is people are sending photographs of what they have done that are not compliant.
so in the chat, we've got Nicole Barth from Councilmember Eric Spotcher's office was wrote in. I assume the present shed will be modified once they get approval. And again, that was the question, right? Again, they're not here, but that presumably is what one would assume. And that she also noted that I think their present shed is also too deep. So again, they did not submit these photographs of the Charles Street side to us. We're just going off of what is there and what, and again, the idea, again, we're assuming is that they would build it to compliance. Because again, that line is over here at the other corner, to your point, Carter.
Well, I would say we're not assuming at all because their diagram and their documentation.
Correct.
Saying that they.
Saying
know.
that, correct.
And obviously.
That's what's
their
before us.
existing shed is not in compliance.
Right.
Cannot remain there. So that's
And
gotta
they're
go.
permitted to keep it through November and then take it down anyway. And that's 30 days from approval for November.
But it's, yeah, because right now, the shed goes to the middle of that window. You see?
So it can be longer.
So if it just shifts over the way they've said in the site plan, right, and then.
Just has to match, just has to comply.
But I don't mean, look, it has to
Just has to-
comply.
Yeah.
We're looking at the existing
Yep,
situation.
yeah, exactly, which we understand that'll be, yeah, as I mentioned, that's presumably that what's before us is what's in the site plan as is. Okay. So are there any other comments from the committee on this before we open it up to the public?
The measurement that we don't have, I didn't take it as the street width measurement. It looks like it's wide enough, but we
I
don't
think it's
have the actual.
Yeah,
But we don't
that.
have an actual measurement of the street width is. So it looks like it's compliant, but we don't have the measurement, so.
Just want to mention
The 7th Avenue.
that we're missing the measurement.
That's just a statement, but we should move on.
Okay.
It's already.
All right. So if anyone from the public would like to speak on the Partners Coffee Roadway Cafe application, please raise your hand online. And if either of you would like to speak on the Roadway Cafe part,
General question about roadbed sheds.
okay.
Not specifically about this. If you have two businesses that flank a residential doorway and those two businesses want roadbed sheds, do those sheds also have to be comply with that 5 feet on either side of the primary? How does that work then, where you have a residential doorway and two businesses that want roadbed sheds? Can they obstruct that?
Can't really address situations like that because we really need the specifics of the individual applications. Because there are anomalies, this is something that DOT says, and I've also come to respect it, is you need the actual application in front of you.
I looked for that in the DOT document and didn't see anything that addressed that.
Yes, they can't be continuous, they have to have a space in front of the residence. You can only, the sheds themselves.
Roadways,
I don't think,
roadways do not.
First front and not next to.
we're not sure if that's the case. I don't know if roadways need to leave an opening on the street for residential entrances. They're only required to leave 18 inches between, on their side
Or
of
more,
another shed
depending
or
on the
more,
situation.
and they can't extend past a certain length.
40 feet, I think,
Right.
Whatever, yeah, whatever.
40 feet, yeah.
But again, it's hard because there's different,
Well, just as a discussion point, if we don't have an application with this scenario.
Yeah.
But since the roadway enclosure or seating can only be up to the edge of the storefront itself of that commercial premises, you can't go beyond that in front of the residence.
but that's not.
But to Carter's point,
That's
some
not true
places you
because we had
have
a
double spaces with a
SLA
door in
application
between.
where you have the storefront on, the same storefront on both sides of the residential
A
entryway.
continuous building.
And it's a
I
continuous
see.
building, and the business is behind the residential entrance. So until we have an actual application that we can start making inquiries to DOT on,
Yeah.
the hypotheticals are not helpful because there's enough unclear situations on that we can't really answer general questions. I think the dining out website is very clear.
Done.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, thank you.
Do you want to speak on the roadway cafe portion? Great. Just state your name one more time for us, just so we have it on for this one. Thank you.
My name is Norma Cote, and I live in the West Village.
Thank you.
You took a very good photograph of Charles Street. I took one too, and I tried my best to attach it to my form, and I won't tell you what the difficulties are. So I brought it in, and what I really wanted to show was two things. One is what it says on that sign here, the speed limit. It's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit because this is a neighborhood slow zone. And it's a neighborhood slow zone because you've got adults and children, apparently in more than average numbers, walking side by side and holding hands. So and there's another reason why I wanted to bring this. Your photo shows it even better. It's nice to know how far out the roadway, the sidewalk cafe would come, so that you know how narrow the sidewalk would be between the roadway. And I measured it, and the roadway, the sidewalk cafe would come out almost to the end of the stoop that you see projecting onto the sidewalk there. So what you see between it here is what people will have to walk on. And my question is, even if the measurements conform to the requirements of the rules, can other factors that are unique to this situation, such as the pedestrian load on that portion of the sidewalk, be taken into account? If you're adding 8 seats in the roadway and another 4 to 6 seats on the benches on the sidewalk, then you're getting a cluster of people at this end that may make it difficult for child and an adult guardian to walk side by side, especially if you have people trying to walk in the other direction. So it may create, the two combined, I think, will make it difficult. It will create a congestion there that's undesirable in a zone like this. That's all I have to say. And you can keep this thought.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. So, yeah, good point about the neighborhood slow zone in the 20 mile per hour. Again, the only other thing that's not on here is there's a alternate side parking sign that's over here within the plan. I'm assuming it's the correct amount of feet away, but it's just not indicated on the plan, but it is there.
So just, do we have any other comments?
Is there anyone else from the public that wants to speak on this online? Please raise your hand. If not, I'm going to close the public session on
I
this.
just want to raise the one issue
What?
here, which there was a good observation raised on the hours of operation.
Oh, yeah, I do have.
Because the legal hours are 8 to midnight,
Yep.
except for Sunday, which is 10 to midnight. So the hours of operation of the business are earlier set up, and the tables and chairs do need to be secured outside of. that
Until 8
time
a.m.
period. Right.
Okay. So even though they open up at 6:30 a.m., there was a question from over here about, does that mean at 5:30 a.m. are they going to be setting up? And the answer is no, because you cannot operate that Sidewalk Cafe until 8 a.m. So, and I think it's similar to the closing. It's not serve the last person at 11:55 and then whenever they're done. I think it's the same thing on the front end of it. So at 8 a.m. is when you could start setting up for it, not 7:30 a.m. Okay, all right. So with that, does anyone need to take a break or anything, or? Okay, so let's go to the business session. Do we want to start with this one, or do we want to go to Little Ruby's?
Little Ruby's.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we've got all of Little Ruby's questions answered, and we know
It's great they
the
showed up.
steps that they have to take.
Yeah.
Our viewpoint, my viewpoint is that we could approve this.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yep, I would agree.
So,
Just noting there's open violations. And that they would have to-
so are we voting? I'm just trying to pull this up. Hold on. So on this, are we voting to approve this, to approve with modifications, or to, it sounds like denial's off the table, so
Approved.
Approved.
approve, okay? All those,
The issues are beyond us.
okay, so, just to take a vote, approve, make a motion to approve,
Yes.
Yes.
Little Ruby's, great, thank you. Next one is Partners Coffee. Partners Coffee, the Sidewalk Cafe, which is 7th Avenue and Charles.
I think I'm okay with the 7th Avenue as long as it's compliant. I mean, the diagram is followed. I'm not sure about the barrier that it has to be
Continue.
continuous. We should note that if that's the case. I'm
Yeah,
positive about that. I made a note to myself.
yeah, that was a good point that was brought up, that, it was not clear to me. I had always assumed. Just gonna look, see what it said. Have it for roadway. Sorry, I'm just looking it up to see if I can, that's temporary. Barrier means an object placed on all sides of a roadway cafe other than the side that fronts the restaurant to protect patrons of a roadway cafe. So it's not actually defined for a sidewalk cafe. Barriers of a roadway cafe. I'm just looking on the guidelines. It does say that for the roadway cafe, they must be interconnected.
Oh.
For a roadway cafe.
Yes, yes. So it doesn't define it for site.
But you have to have a barrier for the sidewalk, so I'm not sure why I'm not. It only says interconnected for sidewalk and barriers not defined.
Interconnected for sidewalk,
No, interconnected for roadway,
so,
but not for. It's like a puzzle.
Yeah, it sure is.
well, I mean, it has to conform.
Sighting. Okay, here we go. Sidewalk cafe. Path, maintenance.
So it sounds like, just while we're kind of.
Seventh
musing
Avenue
over that,
side,
Seventh Avenue side, I would say we could possibly approve with, well, with questions, the type of barrier. It has to conform, but how is that defined? And also to note that at the present time, the existing planters on the sidewalk are out of compliance, do not conform
I don't
with
think we
this
need to
diagram.
mention that everybody, I mean.
I know,
It
it
doesn't have the proper
Showing us-
should be
Right.
assumed.
it doesn't have the proper barriers, and there's also not a,
On Charles.
no,
Oh,
Seventh
Seventh
Avenue.
Avenue.
Doesn't have the proper barriers. It doesn't indicate whether or not it's appropriate area for a service aisle on there.
Right.
The diagrams don't appear to conform to an appropriate service aisle. And
Okay.
so I don't think it's approvable unless they have a new barrier system, which would give them the extra space.
I mean, it looks like there's a service in here, but
Yeah, but
they have
there's-
round tables on there,
But it's different than the diagram.
right? I mean, if it's a square versus a circle, right, that's a different, it's not accurate.
As was pointed out, we can't make
Yeah.
a comment that their planters don't conform with the diagram because
We don't know if
that's
they're
not the
gonna-
criteria.
right.
The criteria is the diagram. And so, yes, I think we can make a definitive statement that the diagram does not show a service aisle or the proper spaces between the seats and tables. So I would not be able to approve that. And certainly that goes for the Charles Street side as well. So I wouldn't
So,
approve either one.
okay.
Plantings are allowed and can be placed around the entire perimeter.
So it's about the perimeter demarcation on the sidewalk cafe, to Donna's point, right? The perimeter of a sidewalk cafe, other than an enclosed sidewalk cafe, shall be clearly and visibly demarcated by a removable and self-supporting base wall, railing, planter, fence, or stanchion and rope, which, that's really light, right? So, which shall be no higher than 2 feet and 6 inches, exclusive of any shrubbery and or planting. Such perimeter demarcations shall not be affixed to the sidewalk. That's all it says.
Which means it needs to be clearly defined so that you know that everything that's going on is going on inside of there, not that people are walking between gaps and serving between gaps, and it needs to be a clearly
But
defined.
there's no service here. Remember, this
But
is.
either way, they need to be walking into it, not entering, not walking all
The
down the
service aisle
sidewalk.
also is where people walk.
Right.
Right.
It's
They-
not
Okay,
service, it's where,
So we need the perimeter isn't correct and it doesn't look like there's,
So the space between the barriers is not compliant. Because it's wide enough to walk through, right?
Doesn't seem to be. compliant.
Okay. Okay, so we have to treat this as one holistic application for 7th Avenue and for Charles Street. It's my understanding it's the same application number, which it is. So are we ready to vote on this?
well,
Or do we need more comments?
Well, I think that we just need to figure out, is this, because the applicant is not here, how do we get to the right compliant setup? And if they're not participating in this process, is this something that can be modified? Or is this something, and the modification has to be agreed to by the applicant and the board, correct?
Right. This is
No,
very
does it
similar.
have to be agreed to between the applicant or the board, or do we, I mean, if the applicant were here, we would know if it was agreed to or not.
Right, but that's contingent upon what our,
Right,
We can't design it for them.
Right.
right.
Only say this design does not conform with the requirements in our interpretation. It reminds me a little bit of Little Rubik's when they had this fixed fence in the sidewalk and that violated a bunch of stuff. They had to come back. We had to go through that.
I mean, we have until September 14th, but it's still before the next full board, so, to weigh in on this one, and we can approve with modifications, and the applicant can either agree to them or can acknowledge, but again, this form is not signed by the applicant anymore. So it used to be that the feedback form that we fill out was then signed for Sidewalk Cafes by that, so unless we were to create some sort of stipulation agreement that we would send to the applicant to try to negotiate this in the next like 3 or 4 days, because we have essentially our executive committee meeting next Tuesday. That is our August full board substitute, so.
Or we just recommend the modifications and they either,
Yeah,
I mean, that's
Yeah.
basically.
I mean, it sounds like, right.
Without designing it, just saying that it, I mean, they need to modify the perimeter on Seventh Avenue so that,
It sounds like if we can get them to a place where the barrier gaps are addressed in the service aisle, that a Seventh Avenue Sidewalk Cafe is plausible and can be compliant.
Right.
It sounds, we could possibly get to that on Charles Street only if they had some sort of perimeter demarcation that they could fit a two tops there, but that currently the bench, table, and 2 seats times 2 does not work,
right.
and there is no perimeter demarcation. So do we want to put that?
And we
in
don't
there?
know if there's 5 feet from the door because that measurement is missing.
And I can go measure the door, I can go
Well,
measure
but
the
it's,
street.
it's not complete.
It's not complete, yeah, it's not complete.
It's not complete.
so the issue here is on our form that we're responding to, if you want to pull up that section. Which is the second page.
Oh, on the community feedback form, or?
Yes.
Okay, let me get out of this. Okay,
So if you scroll down, if you see here, you have, if we recommend approval with modifications, the applicant acknowledges, agrees to, or the applicant acknowledges it's not agreed to.
yeah,
No, I'm just, if we're going to take this path and we're voting on this tonight, we don't know the answers to that.
Right.
And if the applicant, what's submitted doesn't seem to meet the requirements on both sides to a level that
Which is
gets
not,
to a denial from my perspective. But if they made the changes, and then it would be an approval with modifications if they agreed to it. But without them here, I don't, there's
we were able to
there's
get,
substantive
right.
issues with both setups that
understand this.
it's,
Okay,
I mean, is that,
Yeah,
if I hear you correctly, you would have to vote denial because nobody's here to.
yeah,
well, because of the form.
Yeah.
right.
right, it's similar to other committees where if the applicant doesn't appear, there is a denial.
It's not our responsibility or duty to design it for them.
Okay,
But I'm happy to reconsider that if they agree. But they're not here. So we're left.
I mean, we can't float this and then reach out to them and then, because we will not have voted.
So
Right.
Well,
if we vote to deny, is there no way for us to communicate to them the criteria of how to modify to get approval?
We could vote
To deny.
conditionally to deny, but if they modified this in the manner what our concerns are, I think it could get to an approval with modifications, but I'm just not comfortable doing that if they're not agreeing. It's because it says there, the check mark acknowledges, but does not agree. We don't know the answer to either.
Right.
So,
Well, and here, as you say here, like, again, they've redone this because they're no longer giving this form to the applicant to then look at and sign. As you see here, it says that if, and I think this sentence is wrong, it needs to be on the top one here, that applicant, or I guess it's for both, is that we have to have something, we have to provide the documentation with this form
I think,
if they agree to the modifications.
I think what they're
Or if
saying,
they do not agree.
I think what they're saying with that, Valerie, because I was confused by that,
Yeah,
is that if the applicant does not agree to, let's say the applicant was here, we recommend modifications, they don't agree to it. I think what DOT is asking for is to see to supply the documentation of whatever agreement we tried to get them to do. I don't know. Like they want to see what that was, even though they didn't agree to it.
oh, I read it,
I mean, I read it the same way you do. It belongs with the first one until I kept rereading it so who knows?
that if we're,
See,
like, it's what if we're,
Like this is coming from us to them, since they're not, the applicant has nothing to do with this.
Right.
We are sending this to DOT. They want to see what those modifications were.
it
I might email
it
it
seems
to
them.
improperly worded.
Yeah.
But I think, I think that these are sufficient problems, and look, the other issue is the round chairs, square chairs, whatever it may be. This isn't an exact diagram of the tables and chairs, but the depiction here doesn't sufficiently lay out the measurements in such a manner that we don't know how wide the barriers are, we don't know what they're using, we don't know the diameters of tables and chairs. So as a result, it looks here that the service lane is through between the
The
barriers,
sidewalk.
and that's
oh,
not
It's on the
appropriate.
sidewalk.
But if we had a better explanation, this could get there, but without it, just look, and then seeing on the Charles Street side, because it's one application, right?
right, it's one application.
So that also has issues because it looks like they're saying that there's two chairs, which are the existing condition. The table with two chairs. So this just doesn't seem provable, and I would like this to go to a public hearing if they were to continue with this. If there's not an agreed upon modification, so that you can weigh in properly, so that they are required to modify it. So
Would you,
I don't
would,
think
would,
enough weight
and-
will be given to a modification because they're not here.
right,
So
do we still want to put in our recommended modifications in our response back, even if we do vote to deny this? Or no, because that's designing it?
Well,
It's allowable.
if you give the reasons for the denial,
Right.
Oh, okay,
they're inherently
right, it's in there,
Right.
the
Okay.
correction.
right. So it would just be the
Um,
3 comments.
But I
So
do-
if it's allowed, there would be nothing wrong with that because we are voting to deny. And so that means that they have to modify it before.
Right,
But what it would be better for all parties is if they reach out to the applicant and they agree to these changes. I think if we,
Outside of this meeting,
yeah,
does
I
that,
mean,
can that be done? It seems like something outside of our ability to do that.
well, they're not required to come to our meetings. That's the form we fill out.
did they reply back at all? The applicant for Partners Coffee at all? No, okay.
So I think that, but I would rather resolve it.
I mean, when we can ask
Properly.
them, but what do you mean by I mean, we know what properly means, but again, without them here, so have them send us a revised drawing that gives us specifics and matches something, so we understand what they're doing.
Well, I think, so what are we telling them? Like, hi, letting you know, we had this, our CB2 public hearing on this application. We voted conditionally to deny it. Because of these items. If you can agree to modify all these items, then we could, what then?
That's where I have the problem. I don't know if we can say, if you could agree to modify them, if you could give us an updated drawing that shows that it's compliant. Because X, Y, and Z seem non-compliant. Because I don't know what to me, it's, I mean, it's modifying it, but I want to see the modified plan. I don't know specifically what to tell them to do.
Mark, what do you think on this?
Can we
And then-
ask
and then-
them to
and then it-
resubmit?
And then at
I mean,
exact,
if
would we
this-
ask?
We're gonna have this come up a lot.
Yeah.
People aren't coming, but we're not looking to hold this up. If it's compliant, it's compliant.
Thanks,
This is-
Nicole.
So a couple things, I didn't want to
Yeah.
interrupt your conversation, but my understanding is that the drawing, the photographs are always gonna be non-compliant, or almost
Right.
always.
Yep.
Right,
Because that's what's there now.
Right.
So you go by, my understanding is you go by what the boxes they've checked.
Yep.
On the form.
Yep.
And so even though the planters are not correctly aligned, you could put into your comment section that unless, that's so. So I thought the process was, and I need to confirm, that you fill in the approved with conditions, and then DOT sends it to them, and then they either agree or don't agree. That's what I thought the process was.
But that's
This has
not,
changed, yeah, and I think that's what it was, because then that's when they initially had the signature line. I'm like trying to scroll. That's when they initially had the applicant signature line here, but they don't anymore,
I understand,
right?
but that's
Yeah.
because they're not gonna have them physically printed out and then send it back. I think that was the issue. Because not every applicant can actually print and scan and send back. I thought that was what that was about. So if you do a approve with conditions, say what the conditions are, and they don't agree, then they're going to a public hearing. If you deny, they're going to a public hearing. But if you do approve with conditions and they agree to the conditions, then they don't have to go to a public hearing. And while I'm interrupting, there is one thing I found on the website about the perimeter, which is, you read the regulation. They've embellished that. Take a look at what they say. There's that, I have my glasses on. That
on the Dining Out NYC website.
it says everything that Valerie said, and then the last bullet point, which is not, I believe, in the regulations, it says a sidewalk cafe may not be fully enclosed. Existing permitted enclosed sidewalk cafes operation, blah, blah, blah.
Well,
Fully-
that means, they mean a shed. They mean it can't be
yeah,
a shed.
this is
That's what they
an
mean.
enclosed sidewalk cafe is what I think they're referring to.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Because it says existing permitted.
No, that's good.
No, hold on, it says existing permitted enclosed sidewalk cafes in operation on March 16, 2020, or 4 years. That's for enclosed sidewalk cafe, which is what I mentioned during
Oh, I see.
Ruby's.
Oh, I got you.
No, that's
that
good,
they
this is a
don't
good
have a
reference, thank you
process.
for reminding me that that's there.
No, you're right, they are talking about the enclosed fence, we got it exactly right.
Okay,
So-
hey, all good, no, that's good, that's good.
I mean, their illustration shows something continuous aside from the entry area and
So,
must be clearly demarcated.
But Mark, if we, can we take a provisional vote, do you think, that says we're gonna deny it? But if they take an action to submit the corrections,
Many.
yeah, because and then before our executive committee, even though we've
Yeah,
already
I think-
voted that this committee acts in lieu of the board,
Right.
so the executive isn't ratifying. I mean,
would we need to introduce?
it's a little, but I think that we can just give the outcome of what's happened between now and the executive to respond publicly on what the applicant has chosen to take as their desired path.
Well, we're trying to find a solution here, right? I mean, we're
But I'm just
trying,
saying
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
opening, because then it gives you the time, and you can update the board and whoever chooses to participate in that next public meeting on what the final outcome was
Right.
on the provisional vote and the votes finalized.
So even if
and-
this doesn't make it to Tuesday's executive meeting, it would still pass because it's the vote of the committee?
No, but meaning that you can say, is the applicant agreeing to
Yeah,
do the modifications
Yeah.
or not?
yeah,
And so your options are, you can just deny based on the things that you've said. You can pass in effect a resolution that says if they agree to these conditions, then it'll be conditional agree, and if not, it's denied. That's a resolution that any committee could make, right? Or you could just do the conditional approval with the conditions laid out. And I can then try to get a hold of, or we can try to get a hold of the plan examiner and Jennifer Santa Ynez and confirm whether which way this is supposed to be read and which way is supposed to, and that can be done before your deadline. It may or may not be done before Tuesday.
well, we have until the 14th to submit this to DOT.
I understand,
Yeah.
but I'm just trying to say is, let's say if they said, yeah, this is what we're submitting and that's it. If
Then it's a
that's the
denial.
case, it's a denial because I think there's enough,
Yeah,
in my mind, there's enough not right.
but we
But
also
if
have
they correct it, because the denial, then it goes to hearing,
more
the
time.
board can testify at it.
We're
give it
trying, we're
Tuesday.
trying to reduce that time period if we can get this to work.
Well, that's up to them.
Yeah, it's up to them, it's in their
So
court.
that's-
Okay, great.
And I,
In either way, I'll try to get in touch with DOT and find out how this is actually
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
work.
if you could, and then I'll make the list that we would present to the applicant.
So that won't control what you do
Nope.
next tonight. You
Yep,
can do
no.
any of them.
Thank
Okay.
you for that. Okay,
So
so we're voting to
would not-
conditionally deny. Go
well,
ahead.
I would vote deny because we're not gonna design it for them, and even though we may itemize the stipulations that we found to be lacking on their diagram, until I see a properly documented diagram with conformance, I can't say if you agree to modify your thing, then go ahead, because that takes us out of it. And we don't know if they ever will correctly conform.
So,
I agree. I think that's what we were saying, right?
Right.
That they have to provide the updated diagram.
so
Right.
as a condition, so we conditionally deny unless they provide a site plan and agree to they agree to the modifications and they show the modifications on a site plan. And if that is not, then it's a denial. But,
Correct, yeah,
Yes.
I'm not gonna argue with the way you worded it.
Huh?
In this meeting, with this diagram, I have to vote to deny.
okay,
We will give them a reason and ask them to modify and resubmit. But it's up to them what they do. But at this meeting, with what we have, I believe we can only deny.
so.
So you just want to deny it, that's it. You're not interested in the conditional aspect.
I'm interested in letting them know what our conditions are. But all we have to vote on tonight is what they have presented.
Right, but we won't meet again, and that's it.
Let's do
No,
that.
meaning, I don't know if you watched any of the public hearings. They say thank you for your comments. Like, so this is really our only opportunity to engage, even if it's indirectly with the applicant, otherwise we're removed. And that's it. And meaning that the conditional aspect actually preserves our engagement with the applicant.
How?
Because they have to respond to us. If we just deny, that's it. That's our only response. We never hear from them again. And that is taken in because we're
Isn't that
informing.
Is that their choice?
No, that's DOT. Because they may give them some other site plan update that we never get to see again. It's never returned to us again. The process doesn't stop. And so if we take an absolute position, we actually have no more engagement. So,
Maybe that's the way it's set up. And I can only deal with what they are charged to do and what we're supposed to.
But if they would have, I mean, we know what issues we have. with it.
Right.
So if they were to
It's part of
supply
our
us,
record.
so if they were to supply us though with an updated diagram that clears up those issues,
I'd rather see it
Would
at
that
our
not be
engagement level
okay?
and not find out.
I would rather see it that way too, but I don't see it as it being possible with this kind of an arrangement of these three choices.
I mean, I'd rather not find out in
So,
5 months.
Let me,
I'd rather know in the next 3 days. And if you deny it, we won't find out for 5 months.
with these three options, I think what I'm hearing as a suggestion is the
Of the roadway.
approved with modifications, provided we see the modifications. That's different to me than approving with modifications and hoping those modifications meet what we're suggesting. In other words, not suggest, it's say what's wrong and approve with modifications, but that approval only stands if they get us an updated site plan that illustrates how those modifications are being handled.
I agree with you.
And if they
but
can't
this
do
form
that-
doesn't- But this form doesn't say
But I would
that.
not hand that form in. I would wait, I would tell them that and see if we get those modifications. If we get those modifications that are compliant, because we're not, I mean, this isn't compliant. We can't approve this, it's not compliant. If they get us a site plan that shows modifications that are compliant, then we can recommend approval. If they get us a site plan that is not compliant, then we're denying.
So are we saying, is it on the table now to vote to approve with modifications if those
No.
modifications are not met? then
What's on the
it's a
table
denial?
is the denial. And the way that that can be amended is if they take certain steps. And they have to do that very quickly. If they don't take those steps in the next few days,
Right,
then it's a
Denial.
denial.
right.
And there is nothing else. But thing is, we don't get to say anything anymore. And the path you're suggesting is a monster risk. And I think it's a mistake because the point of what we're here for is engagement with the applicant. And in this process, the things that I've heard from DOT, they're not concerned. They're going to stamp this and move on. We've heard enough comments here that this is an important application. And we haven't even gotten to the roadbed, because this is about the max situation.
Right.
And to leave it unchecked.
Well, and at the
without conversation, I think
DOT public
is not
hearing,
good.
and at the DOT public hearing, the applicant may or may not show up, and the applicant, there is no dialogue into agreement the way that we have here.
It's not a
Even if the
presentation
applicant-
to a commission.
Right, even if the applicant shows up,
There is no,
the applicant says, we think this is good and blah, blah, this is what happened on one of them, and then other people testify, and then they shut it down. They don't ask questions, there are no questions asked, there is zero, it's just people.
Well, what I'm hearing from you, Donna, is that we don't have just these three options, we have a fourth option.
Well, we don't really, I'm just saying internally, we have a fourth option. We're denying it unless
Internally
they,
meaning what we're
Right,
doing right
right,
now.
exactly. right.
That's
So-
what I'm
so-
saying.
Right.
We now
That's
have a
it. The
fourth
form
option.
doesn't give us a fourth option, but.
No,
but
the fourth
we-
option though is our own,
Right.
it's not theirs.
Right,
It's that if they do something in the next 4 days, it changes the board's position.
and if they don't.
What I'm saying is that you're offering a fourth option where we decide not to vote on this application.
That's not true.
But
You're wrong.
rather-
No, you're saying it wrong, that's not correct.
We're voting to deny
We're
it.
voting to deny. And if they take an additional step in the next few days, then our vote will change to approval with modifications.
And that
And the
extra step is
modifications
showing us.
Or-
there would be a site plan showing the
It's compliant.
modifications
Right.
and
I
agreement.
could go along with that.
Okay.
That's
I mean,
what,
that's pretty much,
What it is.
because if we don't get that,
We're
it's not
denying.
up to us anymore and we never see it again. And we have zero,
And we may
we don't
not-
even, can't even talk to anybody.
We
The
may-
public hearing is a one-way
And we still may not get that.
and we don't get to see the deliberation publicly.
all right, well,
So that's,
you're just phrasing it differently about how we go about communicating with the applicant about
And this is we're extending a very generous
Yes.
offer. This is someone who did not reply. did
And they still may
show
not
up,
reply.
And they still may not reply.
They're not required, this is,
They're not
the
required,
city
exactly, yeah, yeah,
is
exactly.
designed this intentionally in this manner. But if we want to participate, we have to be creative to continue the
Well, and that's
participation.
why,
Otherwise, it's just.
and that's why we don't have a policy for this committee that if an applicant doesn't show that we automatically deny, because they're not required to be here.
Right.
So, right, so
But we also didn't tell them we'd like to see you, did we?
we did. We said, it's, maybe I need to reword that, but we say that there's no formal presentation from them, but maybe I need to add a line that it is an opportunity to be in dialogue and to reach a solution. So maybe I'll add a line to that. So again, this place does not have a liquor license, so it's not a usual applicant to our board. So, it's a different ballgame. Okay,
I'm ready to
so
vote.
Roadway. Okay, so let's vote on for Partners Coffee at 44 Charles Street. For the Sidewalk Cafe, we're voting to deny under the condition that
And we're voting to deny, period.
Okay, voting to deny.
That vote can be amended.
The vote can be amended.
Approval with modifications if they take the steps
Yeah,
to submit a diagram
Updated diagram with the modifications.
with the modifications,
agree.
and you will outline
Outline.
those specific issues we discussed.
Yep.
The barrier, making sure it maintains the setup, full explanation of how they intend to fit the seating on Charles Street in a compliant manner.
Yep.
Those are the main.
I will send
issues.
through those bullet points. So,
And then nothing can be on the other side of the tree pit.
Right.
And if it is, it has to maintain a 10-foot clearance,
right. Well,
because that's their entryway, right?
correct.
So they can go further, we're not restricting the size.
Right.
But if they were to do that.
It becomes
then
the
it has
tree
to
pit,
be
10 feet.
I don't have a problem if they.
Okay, yeah.
It just wouldn't make any sense.
Okay,
Okay, Roadway?
all right, so Roadway.
We're all in favor of that.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't see any problem since they are stating that they will conform with all the details
Right,
of a new type of roadway seating, none of which exists right now.
The roadway, I think the concern is just that also is dependent upon the other application, because the non-conforming application is a concern with pedestrian flow, right? If they don't correct the sidewalk seating, that's a concern for the roadway.
right.
And then also in the roadway is,
Do you have something else?
but I just, the roadbed, again,
Hello?
Today is a CB2 community board meeting.
Huh?
and,
Sure.
Are you an applicant or,
I live the same.
So we're in our business session and we've concluded the public session option of
you're
our,
welcome to say though.
so you're welcome to stay.
I think that here that the main issue is we don't know the street width. I think it's sufficient, but we don't have that measurement. And
Right, I think in the
that's-
application, it states that the roadway is going to be in the width of the existing parking space. And I believe that complies with the regulation.
No, we don't know if there's a 15-foot emergency limit because we don't know the width of the street.
Well, I'm just using the language that,
Yeah, but they don't
They don't ask.
ask that measurement,
I know,
so we don't
And
know.
we're gonna keep saying that we don't have it.
Right.
that's why we're always relying on what's,
I
know.
what's the parking space.
No, but the parking space is meaningless because we don't know the road width. What we've commented on the other ones is we've gone and measured it. We've measured it, the
Yeah.
board. Nobody here has measured the street width. By a point. It's a failing on our part.
I think there's a no parking or no standing across the street from it.
Okay.
So that makes it better off than some of the other ones where we had parking on the other side. I didn't double check the sign, but on Google, it showed no parking across the street with arrows going. So if that's still there, and I've never seen cars, the times I've walked by, there have never been cars on that northern side. I guess I could check the street sign map.
Okay. So are we ready to vote on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we just want to put anything in there that, I mean, the diagram is where it's positioned on the diagram is fine. I guess that's what we're.
So I don't know if that's 15 feet.
Yeah, well, I got a picture of it too, and,
But I don't know if it's 15
but
feet.
it's right, I don't,
So I think that the modification, should prove with the modification that it would be 15 feet.
okay,
Okay.
I mean, that's,
I'm good with that.
they're not gonna provide.
Right, and remember, Nicole Barth from Councilmember Eric Botcher's office had said, it may be too wide, but I don't know if she was commenting on the site plan or what's currently there.
I think she was saying what's currently built, it might be too wide.
Yes, the existing street shed is too wide.
And according to this,
New one is gonna be not so wide.
Okay.
according to the New York City .signs.net, there's no parking any time.
How does that actually live here?
The parking space.
We'll just reopen.
So let me, how about I reopen, so let's, do we want to reopen the public session?
Yes,
Before we vote on this one? Okay. So if you want to come up here and state your full name and you can give comment for 2 minutes, sure.
And just to state that my goal is to bring more of the residents to these meetings.
Okay.
I don't
So
feel
just-
like our opinion is always represented, and it's more of a business
So if you could,
perspective.
so before you start talking, if you could state your full name and you mentioned you're a resident, you could give us an idea of.
Oh, sure, my name
So-
is Jessica Arosty. I went to NYU, School of Nursing, and
It's not to, we just need your name for the record.
Yeah.
And
you can
and then-
give my name, but I'm going to give you my perspective.
Of course.
As a woman in New York City that has been a part of this educational community forever.
Great.
That's where I come from.
No, yeah.
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 Please let us know. We got 2 minutes.
You got it.
Okay, so go ahead.
You want to tell us?
Oh, I already did.
Oh, okay. So
So that is why I am involved in this process,
Mhm.
because I do not feel like the CB2 actually has that perspective. And it's mainly the business perspective and people that do not necessarily reside here requesting parking availability and guidelines. But where do your families come from?
We had all residents testified
Yeah,
on the 3 applications we had already.
wonderful.
And we heard the specific concerns about each of the individual applications, and whether or not the applications conform to the regulations that the city has.
Okay, wonderful.
And unfortunately, we can't comment on the regulations because they're already decided. And so what we're talking about in the process are whether or not the specifics conform to those rules or not. And we came up with a number of reasons. And to your point, and one of the points was the clear path requirement, which is people being able to walk on the sidewalk and the different width requirements, which is to your point, the sidewalk for residents. And then on
And all these
roadway-
restaurants now seeking all these new licenses to open seating on the sidewalk.
Yeah, and.
Because after COVID, everything has changed.
Yeah,
And now these restaurants are able to put a chair outside and they can serve liquor outside and serve food outside. And this is not their space. This is not the space, these restaurants and the lease.
They're leasing the
As-
space from the city,
Exactly.
so that's the, and
That's the change of this process.
a lot of your points, this board has commented on the last 3 years. We have an extensive page on our website that outlines many of the concerns which I'm fairly sure that you share, that the board has shared.
And now you can't even walk on the sidewalk because now the sidewalk is a restaurant. So you have to go around it
Right,
on the street level. And I am a mother.
Yep.
and that's.
I wanna walk
in the
that's what
street.
we're- And that's part of what, we've been very frustrated, yeah. And,
But you will see an increase for my community here.
Great.
and one of the
Because I am a
things,
mother. And I should not be walking on the streets.
right,
My son, because now this restaurant has some technicality that allows them to put a chair and offer liquor. And now you have drunk people smoking in these places because it's an outside public. And I do not expose my son to that. So now I have to go around to the street. And that is why I'm here. I'm sorry I'm late.
It's okay.
But
Thank you.
I will bring it to the table, and my answer is absolutely not.
one of the things that goes the steps to what you're talking about, and this is not satisfying at all, but is making 311 complaints when those establishments are blocking it, because the complaints create a record of the bad operators. And in this wild west of what has existed since COVID is slowly changing. But one of the things is that there are, as you know, certain establishments that are much more conscientious. And there are others
And
that are
since-
not at all.
And my
And it's
concern
difficult
is,
to-
and my concern is, since when has family restaurants and a lease taken over my right to raise my child right? That you're selling liquor outside, you're not even inside of building. Because ACS will tell you, you're not supposed to have liquor around your children. So who told the city they can take my street to serve liquor and alcohol and expose my children to that? Because I am a mom. I come up from a very good background. And when I know, I know. 311, I'm going to surpass that because I have been harassed, and that is my experience. But as a family,
Sorry to hear that.
but as a family, as a woman, as a mother, raising her children in New York City, I am going to tell you that there is absolutely no just law that can explain why you are legally allowed to sell liquor on the sidewalk. Because that's we are legal citizens, and there is absolutely no just law. That's it.
I will
There's
say
no
that
just law
this.
that will
board-
allow my sidewalk that I pay taxes for to be used as a method of selling liquor in the presence of the kids. That's their street.
Thank you.
That's
so much
it.
For your comment. I don't have,
And I'm sorry, I'm a
That's
very
okay.
strong advocate and I speak my mind as it is because there are so many technicalities. But when you know what's right, wisdom is divine.
thank you so much. I don't have a card, but this is, you want to do a 311 complaint? And then once you get that service request number, send it to this email. It's like we can.
Oh, I want to get as many people, as many parents, because now you don't even have elementary schools here. Like you have to fight to get an elementary
Thank you
school.
so much
but you
for your
got-
comments.
You have to fight for a school to raise the children.
I
But
know.
it's so easy to get a liquor license to sell it in the street, on the sidewalk.
We don't,
That's why I'm
we don't
here.
make that decision.
I'm
That was
sorry.
it's a state policy decision
Yeah, but we are
and a
here.
city
But
policy.
we are here because you see what's happening.
Thank you so much. We're gonna continue with our business
You have it.
session. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, I will keep my mouth.
No, no, no,
shut.
no.
I just Say that.
No, thank you.
Because
Thank you so much.
Because I want families. I don't want cannabis. And I do not want alcohol being sold on the sidewalk. But I will keep my mouth shut for the remaining of the meeting because that's why I'm here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We also have a cannabis committee. Thank you. This is the information. Okay, so
You
let's,
should sign up. Do you get our newsletters?
I'm not sure I do. no.
You should sign up for the newsletter so you can follow the calendar and attend if there's topics you want to speak on.
There's a liquor
Ed
licensing.
committee, there's a liquor licensing committee, there's a cannabis committee, so that you can make sure that you're heard in those places.
Yep. Thank you. Yep, thank you.
And I guess one final thing, if you want to take the agenda and contact
Yeah.
information for the.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Mark is our
District manager.
manager and you can contact us anytime.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to close the public session. Let's continue with the business session. So we have Partners Coffee, 44 Charles Street, the Roadway Cafe. We're only looking at the Sidewalk Cafe in context of this, but we are voting on this. So sounds like we're, according to the site plan, that we've got the interconnected barriers. Do we have any questions we wanted to raise on this? What was on the table before we went back to the public session was approving this with modifications and going and to ensure that it is compliant with the 15-foot emergency lane, and we'll add in that measurement in the resolution.
When I'm looking at the photographs, like just from the Google Maps or anybody's, it looks like it actually is 8 feet. So that's why I'm concerned. If somebody's saying it's too wide, then that means it doesn't have a 15-foot emergency lane. Does that make sense? I mean,
No.
Right. I think
Photographs, this
Nicole
looks like
wasn't
it's
clear.
8.
Yeah, yeah,
So it may have to be shorter, smaller.
sorry. I mean, the usual thing, we need to maintain the emergency.
Maintain the,
And also to what Norma had brought up, the neighborhood flow zone.
right,
The speed limit.
I think
So
it's good to
think
put that in.
that's important to.
And then just to know if there is a sidewalk, how that can,
we want to make a comment that, because we did on the other,
well, they give you the opportunity to say something about the curb use, right? So,
And I don't think there should be any waiver for any emergency.
okay, no waiver. So we just need to put that in there. That needs to be
Yeah.
maintained, and we do not support a waiver. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so vote to approve 44 Charles Street Roadway Cafe with modifications with the two stated items.
Yes.
Yes, yes?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And going forward, is it possible that we can ask the applicants for the road?
We should do that. We should just send that when we send the email notifying them of the hearing. I will add that in. That's great. Okay, so before we go to new business, if these are the meeting dates I'm proposing. This Wednesday, September 25th had come up at exec last month. We may, again, it's gonna depend on the volume load. I'm not certain what we're gonna get. I think there's like in the next week or two, like, depending if we get something Monday, we may need to have something. We just have to see if it's roadway or not. I think if it's sidewalk, we're fine. Tuesday, October 15th is already on the calendar. It's the Tuesday after Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples' Day. October's a tough month. There's a lot in there. And the same thing with November.
How many pending applications are there?
For CB2. We've been trying to get an updated number. It was
Don't have one?
161 from 3 weeks ago. I called today
How
and
many was
it was 161.
it? Okay, so if you divide 161 by 4.
Mhm.
It's a very big number.
It is a big number.
I'm just.
It is a big number. So in the month of November, we have a big day. Tuesday, November 7th is Election Day. I believe it's the 7th. So there are no meetings that day. And I know that SLA has moved to that Wednesday and Thursday. That week of November 11th is it, because the next week is Thanksgiving. So,
It's 9 o'clock.
yeah, I know.
But we gotta,
Yeah.
But
I think, yeah, I know.
setting
I'm aware. I also think we're
parameters.
filling the time because we only have 3.
and it's the Jewish holidays at the beginning of the month.
Yeah. So,
And back to school.
That's
Right.
cool. As well.
so,
I just think that we're going to be needing to.
I think we're gonna have to add, I think we're gonna have to add it. So for the 4 of us that are here on this, would it be helpful for you? I know everyone else is serving on other committees, and chairing other committees, Donna. But I know everyone's serving outside of their 2+. So would it be helpful for this group if I give you if we come up with proposed dates outside of that to have on hold? So maybe I'll send like a doodle around. Would that be helpful for people? Because I wanna get us set till December. Wednesday, December 4th, I just added that in. We initially had Monday, the 9th. But again, we're not meeting on Mondays, moving forward. And I think same thing. I think there was one other date. Yeah, there was something else where I had it still doubled up with quality of life or street activity, so
But just being realistic, if we get a bunch of applications.
we're gonna have to add a date.
Might need 2 a month, right?
Yeah, we may.
I mean, you
What
can
I
always
think
cancel them. I
that
think
we
it would
might
be
have
good.
to do some meetings a little earlier. And you may want to split to ones that are seemingly fully compliant. And
Oh, like
have a
move those
faster
in.
meeting
Yeah.
For them.
Okay.
As
Oh, so we
opposed to-
calendar them within,
Like, as you
yeah.
decide the
Mhm.
agenda and then, because if there's not problematic ones, we can,
do more.
I mean, I don't,
Right.
Brian, I don't know what you think, but
Well, I'm always surprised that what doesn't seem problematic turns out to be that some
Biggest
issues
problem?
come up, something comes up.
Right.
you don't get-
So, okay, so I'm gonna send around a doodle to confirm all these dates. I wanna be very cognizant of everyone's schedule. If I wanna get these kind of set, because I know November, December, we start travel and all of that.
160 divided
So,
by 4. We're looking at 40,
so,
one sitting.
well, and I only think out of those, I don't even think we're gonna get 5 to 7% of those in the next 2 months. I mean, it's just, look at the pace. I mean, the Partners Coffee was March 19th.
The dynamic
faster.
will
Right.
raise people.
So, okay, so I'll send around a doodle and we'll get these confirmed. Anyone have new business?
The only thing is, I think we should be trying to engage a little bit more with the applicants before the meetings, because it is helpful to have them here to answer. and say, It's, we can't, they're not here to say yes, of course, and we move on, instead of taking away too much time talking about it.
Okay,
And I'm reluctant to just deny things because they won't be listened to. And I'd rather engage in the areas where we can have a better, for the community application, they need to be here to do that.
so let me just tell you what we're doing right now is there's a kind of a set thing that we email, that Florence will email to them to advise them of the hearing, but it sounds like outside of that, I will also then engage on a specific questions to answer, so that way this is more efficient. moving forward. Does that sound right? So we'll have the office still send the notice of the public hearing. I'll add in the link, like we do say there that it's not required, but again, we could also ask for a reply back regardless whether or not they will be showing up, but also emphasize that this is where we come to solutions and agreement. And
That would be an improvement.
so we could have that from the initial announcement of the public hearing, but it also sounds like I'm also going to, on the front end, send my own inquiries so that we can get things answered quicker instead of opining on them here. And that way, it's, even if they show up on Zoom and it's a, great, yep, we already talked about this, great, check, done. So that's where the work is
You can
happening.
always go back and tell them they don't have to show up. I mean,
Right,
for
yeah,
those
yeah.
ones that look like everything's fine, or, you know, if we've seen them at SLA beforehand and everything seems fine, you can always.
Okay. All right, so with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Sorry, you're not on the committee, so I cannot
I
take
will
your
be.
question.
Not underestimate my ability.
Okay, so,
Welcome to apply.
yeah, you're welcome to apply, just not, and then, okay, great. Thanks so much. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Have a good night.
Tell me your name one more time.